number 4. I am Rob Tim from 103.1 WRNR. What do you think so far? Pretty amazing. Thank you all again for being here. We also need to thank the sponsors who helped to make this evening possible. Our luminary sponsors, McKenzie Commercial Real Estate Services and What's Up Media. The Inferno sponsors, Thibodeau Media Group, Saucy Salamander Catering Company, Data Canopy, Scarborough Capital Management, Ion Annapolis, and Full Sail Media. And thanks to the Flame and Media sponsors featured in the slideshow and in your program, including WRNR. Also, thanks again to this evening's musical guest, Carlin Tim. And most importantly, to whoever left a rubber chicken on the podium. You also serve who only sit on the podium. We did have one speaker who was not able to make it this evening. Jane Beard, unfortunately, was not able to be here, but we still have 7 more fabulous people for you, starting with, please welcome, Mark Diezik.
Hi, my name's Mark Diezik, which seems a little redundant. I didn't realize he was going to give my name, but that's what I rehearsed, so I'm going to go with it. I am one of the founding members of the Friends Foundation, and the Friends Foundation is a charity that was formed 20 plus years ago by a group of young people who wanted to honor the memory of a couple of friends that we lost in a car accident. When the car accident happened, we immediately knew that we wanted to do something to honor their memory, but what to do and how to go about it was not as nearly as clear. Over the course of several months, we had many conversations about it. And we settled on 2 guiding principles that have basically guided the Friends Foundation to this day. The first was we wanted to get young people involved. At that point, we had a view of charitable events as things that were done. They were usually pretty formal, maybe a little dry, and participated by a generation that was older than us. And we wanted to change that. We wanted to get young people involved. And 2, we wanted to make sure it was fun. We figured if it was fun, other people would come and join us, and we would be successful. Those guiding principles helped us get started, but they didn't provide the guidance for us to actually start raising money so that we could help our community. That took several more conversations that were not necessarily all that fruitful. Until we decided that we would like to talk to maybe some established organizations and see if they could provide us with some guidance on how to go forward with what we wanted to do. We brought in a couple of organizations that we talked to, and I can tell you that the first 2 that we talked to, I can summarize what they told us pretty succinctly in, sounds like a great idea, good luck, which wasn't all that helpful, though it was nice. But didn't really get us any further towards our goal. But then we talked to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and that's where we actually started to make some progress. The Cystic Fibrosis Foundation at that time was looking to launch a walk in the Annapolis area, and when they talked to us, they immediately offered us the opportunity to be the title sponsor of that event. We didn't really have any idea why they offered to do that for us, or why they had any confidence that we could help them at all, but we immediately grabbed the opportunity before they could take it back. So we partnered with them, and they really only tasked us with one thing, which was to get the word out there about the event. They wanted us to bring energy, they wanted us to invite our friends, and basically find participants that would take care of that would participate in the event. While they essentially took care of all of the organizational aspects of the event. They found the site, they reserved it, they provided a tool for registration, had all the payment processing set up, that kind of thing. Together, when we held that event, it ended up raising over $10,000, which from our perspective was way more than we ever thought we'd ever be able to raise with one single event. And the success of that event buoyed us and allowed us to have the confidence to start doing our own events, as well as having learned from cystic fibrosis exactly what goes into putting on an event. This allowed us to start having events of our own. And we had, over the years, we've had many different events. Those events have included holiday parties, which, when we first started, were things that we were doing already. We were already gathering for holiday parties with our groups of friends. So we just added elements that would allow you to raise money, things like doing a silent auction or a live auction, that kind of thing. So since we were going to do it anyway, we just kept doing it and raising money. We also did things like golf tournaments. We all loved to play golf. None of us were any good, but it turns out that it doesn't really matter. You don't have to be good at golf in order to raise money. So those were relatively successful as well. We did tailgates over here at the Navy Stadium. They have tents there you can rent out if you didn't know. And we just basically went there and had the typical tailgate, which involved food, perhaps a little bit of drink. And we sold things like T-shirts and stuff like that, and were able to raise money that way. We did other things. We had crab feasts. This is Annapolis, and so we might as well have crab feasts, and everybody loves crabs. We did happy hours. We also did wine tastings, which really just generally involved giving all of our friends a bunch of wine and then asking for money, which actually proved pretty successful. These events over the years allowed us to make hundreds of donations to various charities numerous times over the years. Some of our largest donations have included, we made a donation of $277,000 to the National Brain Tumor Society, whom we partnered with on our 2015 holiday party. We made a donation of $100,000 to the Analytical Medical Center Outreach Center, which was actually a donation we did over a period of 10 years. And I think we paid it off about 4 or 5 years ago. We made a donation of about $25,000 to the Annapolis Boys and Girls Club, which is actually nearby here. Apparently they have some fans here. You may not like the next part. So it was to sponsor their basketball court. So they put our logo on the court, which I always thought was pretty cool. A few years later, they actually came back to us and asked us to sponsor the refinishing of that same court. Unfortunately, the refinishing erased our logo from the court. And instead, what they did is they put up a sign on the wall that says floor refinishing provided by the Friends Foundation, which I think makes it sound like a floor refinishing company, which isn't really that accurate, but it went to a good cause, so it all worked out in the end, I suppose. But it's not always the largest donations or it's not the amount of the donation that measures the impact of the donation. I can tell you the story of in the first few years that we were operating, we were approached by a woman who had been given a relatively dire diagnosis for a health issue she had at the time. And what she wanted to do was raise some money to pay for a procedure, which at that time was considered experimental and therefore wasn't paid for by insurance. And we gave her $1,000. And through our donation and others that she raised, she was able to raise the money that she needed to have the procedure. And luckily, the procedure was successful. And she has actually been a supporter of ours ever since and given back to us well more than we ever gave to her. It's just been a tremendous experience both ways, and she's one of our supporters to this day. It's things like that that bring me here today to make the offer that we would like to make to this audience and the people at large. We would like to do for somebody out there what cystic fibrosis once did for us. We would like to see if there's somebody out there that has a cause that they're passionate about. And maybe they've always wanted to do something for that cause, but never have known how to get started, didn't know what to do. Maybe they didn't think they could raise the money because they didn't have the 501c3 designation, or for whatever reason. If you have that cause and that passion, we'd like to talk to you. We'd like to see if we can partner with you. If you can bring the drive, the passion, and the energy, we'll provide the rest. We'll provide the infrastructure for the event. We'll help you reserve the facility. We'll help you do the payment processing. We'll do all of those things. And if we do those things, perhaps we'll be able to, together, raise some money for a good cause and maybe have some fun while we're doing it. So if you're interested in this, we'd like you to visit us at our Friends Foundation website, www.friendsfoundation.com. You can apply there if you're interested, and we will hopefully raise some money together and have fun while doing it. Thank you for your time.
Hello, Annapolis. My name is Joel Dunn, and I'm going to be talking to you tonight about big data and how these massive and highly complex data sets are key to restoring the Chesapeake Bay. I was drawn to the magic of the Chesapeake Bay 15 years ago when I moved here, and my story really went storybook when I met my wife walking our dogs down at Acton Landing Park. We now have 2 beautiful daughters, and I run the Chesapeake Conservancy in West Annapolis. The Chesapeake runs from Cooperstown, New York to Virginia Beach. We have 18 million people living in this watershed, 100,000 streams and rivers, and it's the largest land-to-water ratio of any estuary in the world, meaning that what happens on the land affects the health of the Chesapeake. You'll agree it's a national treasure. Its sheer beauty, the Chesapeake, is inarguable. As grand as the Grand Canyon, as wonderful as Yellowstone or Yosemite, as deserving of any of national park status. But we've got some serious problems in the Chesapeake Bay. Too much pollution in the form of nutrient and sediment entering our rivers and streams, leading to algae growth, which harms our fish, crabs, and oysters, and in some instances, humans. For the last 50 years, we have been involved in the largest, longest-running ecosystem restoration project in the world. We've invested billions, and the world is watching. That's Governor Harry Hughes there in the middle, who passed away last night. We're seeing signs of progress, though. Since in 2017, our underwater grasses recorded record growth. Our female blue crab population met our goals. Pollution was reduced. We had a minor setback last year with some rain and the impacts of that, but we're seeing progress. One of the key indicators, though, dissolved oxygen, which limits the bay's ability to support aquatic life, indicates we still have problems. We still have huge dead zones in the Chesapeake Bay. Our focus for the last 50 years has been primarily upgrading sewage treatment plants to tremendous results. But the focus of the next 50 years will be much more widespread. Individual farmers, neighborhoods, cleaning up individual streams. You see, agriculture, cities, septic systems make up 2/3 of the nitrogen pollution entering the bay. We've got to eat, right? And we need a place to live, but we also need to restore the bay. I think technology is absolutely essential for restoring that balance. So in 1965, Bob Dylan took music from acoustic to electric. He was booed, and people didn't understand what he's doing, but it was awesome. Music's never been the same. We're doing the same for conservation now. It's a brave new world. Information is power. Think about how big data has affected the banking sector or the healthcare industry. We're doing the same for the environment now. We call it precision conservation. This is a map of land cover data in downtown DC. It's not exactly Google Earth, right? This is data converted to computer code so modelers and governments can understand what's happening on the landscape. Until recently, this was the best data available for this mapping. We made things unfuzzy. We produced new data that's 900 times better. We can pick out individual trees. We trained the computer to know what's happening on the ground. This big data has huge ramifications for the effort to restore the Chesapeake Bay. Here's a night and day difference of the old data versus the new data for Eastport. Local officials now can manage tree canopy and Forest Conservation Act. They can leverage impervious surface and see how it's affecting urban stormwater pollution. We can help agricultural areas too. You see, the buffers on farmland are key to affecting or reducing the pollution to the Chesapeake Bay. This data will help us identify exactly where to plant the trees to slow the flow of pollution to the bay. But that's not all. We're working on identifying new data for stream mapping. You see, the old stream maps, we didn't even know where the headwater streams were, but now we do, to the centimeter. And think of them as the veins of the Chesapeake Bay. Now, if you think of like an MRI and how we can use an MRI to see what's happening inside our bodies and diagnose problems, this data can be used as an MRI for the Chesapeake landscape. and pinpoint exactly where we have problems. In this instance, we can tell a farmer exactly where to plant a tree, where he can have the biggest impact on pollution at the lowest cost. That's precision conservation, bringing the right practices to the right place at exactly the right time, providing everybody with the data they need where it matters most, democratizing the knowledge for the conservation movement so we can help the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, the Anne Arundel County, the individual farmer. You know, my hero, E.O. Wilson, tells us that we really need to protect 50% of the planet in order to preserve biodiversity. I think we can do that with the aid of technology and partnerships. We're at 22% now in the Chesapeake. We can get to 30% by 2030 or 50% by 2050. Just imagine the legacy we'll leave for future generations by leveraging this technology for conservation. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gene Deems, and I'm a philanthropist. When you hear the word philanthropist, most people think of Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, Warren Buffett. They're rich, right? But do you truly know the meaning of the word philanthropist? A philanthropist is one who makes an active effort to promote human welfare. A person who practices philanthropy. Basically, it means being passionate about improving others' lives and making the world a better place. So takeaway number one is you don't have to be rich to be a philanthropist. I used to make donations to nonprofits without thinking about where the money went, how it was being used, and I never saw the results. But just like Twitter changed the way we do things, I changed the way I do my philanthropy. The photos you see are just a few of the thousands that I've taken since 2009. I was amazed at the number of events I attended and the people I worked with and how I participated in, volunteered, and just attended. I've made some incredible friends and been part of some really meaningful efforts, and it never would have happened had I not been actively involved in philanthropy. I've made some incredible... Takeaway number two is, with friends, you can do the impossible. In 2015, I was honored to be co-chair for the Great Give with Veronica Tovey of What's Up Media. Over 170 Anne Arundel County nonprofits participated, and we raised over $915,000 in 24 hours in an online event. So takeaway number three is, what is your passion? In 2014, I was talking with a friend, and the name Medicine with a Mission came up. I Googled it and found 150,000 references to the domain name, and no one owned it. Over 2 years, Marylanders in this room collected, some of them in this room, collected hundreds of toothbrushes and tubes of toothpaste and other supplies to send to the students at St. George's University in Grenada. And then in 2016, Medicine with a Mission was founded by Josh Carlson, Margot Cook, and me. Over the next 2 years, the students at St. George's University raised $10,000. We raised $10,000, and together we took the $20,000 and partnered with Project Cure. And then in April of last year, at the press conference that was given at Grenada, they announced that that was the largest philanthropic donation ever given to the Ministry of Health. In 2019, I'm active with some really great nonprofits: Hospice of the Chesapeake, Ed Block, Medicine with a Mission, Blue Ribbon, and anywhere else that I can be making a difference. Takeaway number 5 is, philanthropy isn't just about my passions. It's about attending, helping, and supporting those passions of and efforts of your friends. The Super Bowl fundraiser benefiting the Lighthouse Shelter has been organized by Lee Hurt for the past 13 years, and it's amazing. First Lady Yumi Hogan created an incredible nonprofit called Yumi Cares. She used her passion for art and her compassion for ill children to provide a youth art therapy program for the University of Maryland's Children's Hospital. Tim Tebow's Night to Shine happened last month. Hundreds of people turned out to help 130 people with special needs have a prom-like event. It turned out to be an amazing event. So where do you start to be a philanthropist? In Anne Arundel County alone, there are 863 registered nonprofits. I'll tell you where. Takeaway number 6 is visit the Community Foundation of Anne Arundel County's website, cfaac.org. You can also find nonprofits by looking at retail business partnerships that are raising funds for nonprofits. Takeaway number 7 is, in this fast-paced world, slow down and notice the treasures and opportunities around you. So who is Gene Deems? Who am I? Philanthropists love people and want to make the world a better place. We do it with the 3 T's: our time, our talents, and our treasure. Your treasure doesn't have to be money. It can be a smile, a hug, or even just calling the person serving you by their name. I'm just a pebble in this universe making a ripple. A few pebbles make several ripples. But can you imagine the enormous waves of caring love and positive change that would occur if each person in this room was a pebble? Come see me after the event, because I brought a pebble for everybody here. It's my gift to you to be a daily reminder that you have the power to be a philanthropist in what you do. It's all about love. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Vanessa Bright, and I will be speaking on the topic, Stop the Revolving Door to Prison. Imagine if you had paid your debt to society, you come home, you have no job, you have no money, and you have no place to live. What would you do? What would you do to survive? Would you commit a crime? In 2018, 500 inmates returned to Anne Arundel County to the communities to which they lived. Every one of those individuals will impact their community either positively or negatively. Former inmates are often confronted with one reentry challenge after another, everything from securing housing to setting up substance abuse treatment to finding a job. Any setback in any of these could lead to a relapse and a return to prison, what analysts call recidivism. Currently in Anne Arundel County, the recidivism rate is 41%. In 2017, Maryland implemented the Justice Reinvestment Act, and that did put Maryland on a path to a fairer criminal justice system by changing the sentencing guidelines and strict drug policies that led to the mass incarceration, particularly of people of color. Interestingly enough, in 2019, when we have the heroin and fentanyl epidemic, it's being treated differently. There's a call for treatment instead of incarceration. As an educator in the criminal justice system, I teach personal finance and financial literacy. I went in with a lot of preconceived notions. I thought that people got an education, I felt they received training, and they were really rehabilitated. But what I learned is that prison is a very closed system, and we don't know what we don't see. So it was not until I was in there that I learned that we are not preparing people for return to their communities. 95% of the people that are incarcerated will return home. So what we do to them, the trauma that's inflicted upon them from overzealous officers or other inmates, and what we don't do for them by not training them will come back to their communities. For a moment, I want to take you into the life of a returning citizen. You return home with no savings because you made less than minimum wage. There was no opportunity to mend broken relationships, so now you're living in a homeless shelter. You were failed by the school system. You had so you went in with limited skills, limited education, and you come home the same way. You must apply for a job online, but you were not allowed to use the internet in prison, and you lack computer skills. You don't have a phone on which a potential employer could call you. So you somehow get offered a job, but you live in Anne Arundel County, and we know the public transportation system is very limited, so how are you going to get to work on time? My experience teaching inmates over the last 5 years allowed me to see and to hear and understand that they are just ill-equipped. Preparation for reentry should begin the day after they are incarcerated. But yet, if we do provide it, we wait till they're almost about to be released to help prepare them to come home. Unfortunately, it could take years to make the legislative changes that are needed to overhaul this system and make it an equitable system. But President Obama said something. He said, change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. So I am going to open a nonprofit called Maryland Reentry Resource Center. It's going to be located in Anne Arundel County. The center is going to be devoted to empowering inmates and the formerly incarcerated with the skills they need to be thriving citizens. We're going to do this through case management, mentorship, job placement, and training. But we need your help. We need people that are willing to be mentors, to take people into new social networks. We need people that will give of their time and provide a workshop or training. We also need employers that are going to be willing to give somebody a second chance. It is then that we will have success stories like Chris Wilson, who lives in Baltimore. You may have heard of him recently because he's written a book called The Master Plan. He's also a serial entrepreneur and a very successful artist. Nicole Hanston, she runs an organization called Out for Justice, which is an advocate for criminal justice reform. Or you may know Celebrity Jeff, who used to cook cocaine and now cooks five-star cuisine. In closing, I'm reminded of a story told by somebody you probably all know. He's from Annapolis, and in Annapolis, he's called the convener. His name is Carl Snowden. Recently, I heard him tell a story about Michael Jordan, and the story goes like this. He said once Michael Jordan was interviewed, and the interviewer asked him if he thought he was the greatest basketball player of all times. And to the interviewer's surprise, Michael Jordan, who's not very modest, said that he was not. His reason for saying that was that Michael said he knew other people that could outplay him in basketball, people in his own neighborhood. But what he had that they didn't have was an opportunity. So I want to leave you with this. Remember, we all need an opportunity for greatness. Some of us need a second chance at it. Thank you.
Got some tall people up here tonight. Well, it is such a pleasure to be here and see you all. Thanks for coming out. I'm going to talk a little bit about a passion of mine that I've had for many, many years. It's the Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race. So let's go sailing. Into everyone's life come individuals who inspire, drive, and help you along your way. These people can be relatives, notables in their fields, co-workers, or people who cross your path seemingly randomly. Over the years, I've pursued a career in sailing that has taken me around the world. I was inspired by my uncle, Art Burney, his son Lex, and my mother Bitsy, who installed in me a sense of fun, adventure, and kindness. As a child, I was drawn to the sea and the distant horizon. I wanted to know what lay over that horizon, what people I'd meet, and what adventures might lie waiting. I was drawn to schooners. Now, schooners are an older style of sailing vessel which have played a large part in the history of our country as privateers, blockade runners, and engines of financial expansion. Today, few schooners survive. However, there's a special group of people drawn to the majesty of a ship under full sail, the pull of the helm, and a fine breeze scudding you along. When you're sailing schooners, there's an element of beauty and an equal element of impending doom. These boats can be cantankerous, and breakdowns are always an unwelcome possibility. Captains and crew need to be resourceful to keep their boats underway. A dream. In 1988, Pride of Baltimore II was launched as a goodwill ambassador for the state of Maryland. Pride II sails the world, providing young crew members experiences and challenges that have shaped the rest of their lives. Another dream. Captain Lane Briggs, a tugboat captain from Norfolk, realized that the history of our Chesapeake Bay waters was being forgotten, and he set about to change that. Lane had converted his small personal tugboat, Norfolk Rebel, into a schooner by adding 2 masts to a boat that was never meant to be sailed. A late-night barroom challenge to the captain of Pride II created our race 30 years ago. Since 1990, I've sailed an arts boat, Adventurer. Over the years, we've raced in all sorts of weather with close to 50 different crew members, and each time it's been a challenge and great fun. Now in Baltimore, a day or so before the race, schooners offer tours and educational programming. The evening before the race is the Parade of Sail, a great excuse to strut your stuff and blow off some cannons. The race is 127 miles, straight down the bay in a no-holds-barred competition. This is a handicap race, meaning the boats are rated against each other with a time system meant to even everyone's chance for glory. 127 miles at 6 to 9 knots means an overnight sail, dodging ships, weather fronts, and the problematic crossing of the Potomac River, the great divider between Maryland and Virginia. Now, at the start of the race, we jockey for position along with up to 35 other boats waiting for the starting cannon. Jockeying all that tonnage is a bit like trying to make elephants dance. As dawn breaks, the schooners stretch their legs for the finish line, awards party, and significant others. After a day of rest and repairs, the boats are opened up to school kids and the public, closely followed by festivities. The race and the love that keeps all these vessels afloat is a testament to the vision, imagination, and focus of people who want to keep a beautiful and significant part of America's past alive. Our race was founded to promote public awareness of the Chesapeake Bay's maritime heritage and encourage the preservation and improvement of the Chesapeake natural resources. Net funds are donated to local organizations who share our goals, and to date, that's over $200,000. As I close, I'd like to challenge you to think about who has inspired you, who has influenced your life, who can you inspire? The pursuit of dreams has real and positive consequences, and these consequences can and do make our world a fuller and better place. Giving people real experiences can change their lives. In my life, I've been given amazing opportunities, and I try to give back as best as I've been given too. I'll finish with a quote from Van Gogh. "Dream no small dreams, for they have no power to move our hearts." Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I have great news. My name is Jonathan Ross, and I'm here to tell you that you don't have to love exercise, you just have to get a crush on it. Time flies when you're having fun. And that's why your workouts seem to drag on, take too much of your time, and why you struggle to stay consistent. But guess what? You don't really hate exercise. There are no fish that hate swimming in water. In fact, they crave it and thrive on it. And if something provides vitality and is essential, yet we dislike it, it means we've learned to. You don't really hate exercise, you've just learned to hate working out. If I say workout, that's what pops into your head. That isn't fun, and you won't enjoy it, and most likely won't stick with it. I've worked in fitness 20 years, and most of that turns me off. So what if fitness could look and feel like this? Exhilaration and exhaustion at the same time. Sweat you can wipe off your face, but a smile that you can't. Intense enough to change your body, yet fun enough to change your mind. It's a concept I call funtensity. The problem with fitness now is that it's like a shoe store selling the best, highest quality shoes, but only in size 7. We keep telling you how great our shoes are. You keep telling us how they don't fit you, and we don't listen and are shocked when you stop wearing them. But why does any of this matter? This matters because the overweight and obesity numbers continue to get worse, and the percentage of the population over age 65 gets larger. These are the people who don't have size 7 feet. They need something different. This matters because it stinks when your world shrinks. I grew up with 800 pounds of parents, and my father died at 424 pounds. Yet he stopped living long before he died. His lifestyle limited his ability to fully participate in his own life. My mother, now nearly 70, lost 170 pounds, got her life back, and is an example of how no matter where you start from, your body never stops changing based on the actions you take today. But change is hard, or is it? Having children is the most difficult, inconvenient change you can make in your life. Yet, many people have more than one, and on purpose. Sometimes by accident, but mostly it's on purpose. So why do people struggle? You gotta love it to work hard enough to get it. Anytime the benefits emotionally of a challenge outweigh the discomfort, we gladly choose the discomfort to get those benefits. This means it's essential for you to discover the emotional relevance of exercise for you. We like to think we're rational people, but we aren't. So discovering your personal fitness mission statement of why it matters and why you'll make the effort will give you endless motivation. You can't change your body in a single workout anyway. If you make today's workout, you won't wake up a cover model tomorrow. Skip today's workout, you won't wake up obese in the morning. But a single workout can change your attitude about exercise. What if you got a little crush on it? Brain science is hot. We all want to feel better now, make better decisions, and build a healthy brain that lasts. So here's how to turn your brain on to exercise. Now, I must warn you, the following images show real people having a potentially disturbing amount of fun while exercising. The right type of exercise prevents brain disease. It produces more of the proteins that help prevent Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, which is caused by inflammation and DNA damage. So what does the right type of exercise look and feel like? It's time to bring out the Funtensity Rubber Chicken. A reminder to pursue serious fitness but not take ourselves too seriously. And it's going to help us illustrate the 4 characteristics of exercise for brain health. First is reactivity. I didn't have to tell you to catch the chicken, you just reacted to it. It's automatic. And you don't get a face like that on a treadmill. Next is coordination. You're not uncoordinated, it's just a new movement for you. Coordination is simply individual muscle actions grouped together to produce a smooth, efficient movement. And coordination automatically engages your mind. Next is interactivity. This is an interaction with the live human being in the real world. I know that's a little hard to grasp. It's like a video chat with an online friend, but in real life. Next is friendly competition. Some of us like to compete against others, while others of us enjoy competing with others. Either way, competition makes you work harder automatically, which means nobody has to push you to, and it doesn't seem as hard when you do. Use these concepts to elevate the emotional experience of exercise for you. Feel better now, build a brain that lasts, and you will enjoy unfakeable smiles, unshakable brains, and unforgettable fitness. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm Alex Klein. I'm going to take us out tonight, talk about zoning. But before you all say, ugh, get up and leave and go home early, it's not what you think. I'm going to talk about the unintended consequences and what we can do about it. Okay, let's roll. This is Annapolis in the 1880s. It's amazing. This was created with no zoning code, but today it would be illegal to build. Initially, zoning was used to prevent something like a copper smelting plant next to a residence. But fast forward to today, we have 1,700 pages of code, which often yield counterintuitive results that just don't seem quite right. It's not the way it is, it's the result of the rules we put in place over the last century. Here's some examples. Main Street has a human scale because it was built when people walked everywhere, and that's what's made it so enduring over the ages. We accommodate cars here, but they are not the dominant feature, despite the sometimes maniacal focus on parking downtown. Travel out of town on West Street and you'll find a typical modern zoning result. Separated uses far apart, fast traffic, and big ugly parking lots. It's ugly, unlovable, and oppressive for anyone outside of a car. This is known as a STROD, a street road hybrid. It combines people, businesses, and residences with high-speed traffic. The result is dangerous and has devalued the area, but sadly, it's the default infrastructure in much of this country. Built before the intense zoning we have today, downtown is a pleasant, people-oriented place. It's not about the architecture or even the use, rather about how people interact with the buildings. When I'm here, I just want to sit, have a cup of coffee, and chill. But our zoning code often requires an auto-centric design that's a marvel of checklist engineering. Lots of parking, stormwater management, brick sidewalks, something for everybody. It's beautiful, right? But how often do you say, let's stroll down Upper West Street and have a taquito? Everyone loves Snowflake Alley. It's inviting and interesting and gets you where you want to go quickly and follows the observation made by the famous urbanist Jane Jacobs. Quote, most blocks must be short, that is, streets and opportunities to turn corners must be frequent. On the other hand, Parole Town Center's 900-foot block length is definitely not human scaled. It's well appointed from a planner checklist standpoint, but the blocks are long and boring when you're on foot. But it's considered smart growth, so it's got to be good, right? Annapolis has some terrific civic architecture, but more important is the building form and its location on the street. It makes it an interesting place to walk by. Fast forward to the 70s when Arundel Center was built. Its placement on the block hides it from people, and that wall is so despotic to anybody walking by. We probably should paint a mural of some of our favorite dictators on it. What kind of nonsense produces this? These are 3-story townhouses on Prince George Street, one of the most admired places in town. It's great walkable urbanism, but could we build this legally today, given our minimum parking requirements? These days, we zone townhouses that are really just houses without the town in car-dependent areas because no one complains about it there. But then we wonder why everybody drives everywhere. I call it density without urbanism, and it's the worst of both worlds. Street layouts determine how easy it is to get around. Once cars gained mass popularity and Americans started using them as prosthetic devices, we changed the pattern because it was assumed everyone would drive everywhere, so connectivity wasn't important. Our older neighborhoods like Eastport, West Annapolis, and Murray Hill have traditional street grids that make walking and biking efficient and pleasant, and as an added benefit, they distribute car traffic and provide redundancy in the case of emergencies, like we have sometimes down on the neck. But now we create one-way in, one-way out cul-de-sac neighborhoods, which we think produce the idyllic American dream with no traffic on the street, but they greatly lengthen the distance people have to travel to get anywhere. The result is everyone has to use the same pavement, whether they are commuting to work or just getting a quart of milk. If you put this together with lack of connections, you end up funneling walkers, cyclists, and drivers onto busy, congested roads to everyone's detriment. Rules are important, of course, but when we use zoning to fight every little thing we don't like, we end up with a Byzantine code mess, and that often produces large disruptive change that's exactly what we're fighting against in the first place. So let's pick our battles carefully. In the comprehensive plan update, let's do things differently and get back to promoting people-oriented places. If we allow smaller incremental change in our city, we'll evolve organically like before. The right balance is no neighborhood should experience radical change, but at the same time, no neighborhood should be exempt from change. Sure, we might end up with something ugly or cool depending on your perspective, but that's what vibrant cities are: messy, complex, dynamic organisms, and we have to let them breathe. So remember, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Thanks for listening, and if you found these topics interesting, check out my blog at teamplan.org for a deeper dive in these topics. Thanks.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you to all of the sponsors who made this evening possible, and of course to all of our speakers. There's someone I think you should meet, so please welcome now sort of the flint and the steel that create the sparks that make a night happen.
Big shout out to Lisa Ray up in the booth running all of the slides. Thank you, Lisa. And my crew backstage, we were live streaming all night, so it'll be archived on Facebook and then up on YouTube and then on the Ignite Annapolis website, so you can rewatch everything tonight. Thank you, Rigo Productions, Jesse and Katie from Thibodeau Media Group, Angie in the back. Thanks. Lisa. I said Lisa. And then Rob. Thank you, Rob, Tim.
Also, thank you to the crew at Maryland Hall. Always a fantastic group for us. They do so much. Stay tuned for details about an upcoming Ignite Annapolis Meet Me at the Market House event. Date to be determined, as is everything that involves the Market House. Oh, May 1st. All right, May 1st. We've settled on it. This meetup will connect past speakers from all years of Ignite, potential future speakers, organizers, sponsors, and other interested folks. Details will go out to the Ignite Annapolis email list and get posted on the website next week. Also, don't forget, everybody's going to Metropolitan Kitchen and Lounge after this for the after party. And also, don't forget, maybe you're the perfect person to be up here for Ignite number 5. Consider it. And go to igniteannapolis.com. Thank you.